I might just sing Oklahoma. I might.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You're like, what's the matter with this guy? I know. Day 2 of the screaming back, so if I behave irregularly, I have an excuse, I guess. Looking forward to hanging out with Curt Columbus this evening. He is the guy who runs Trinity Rep in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is here through June 5th. And you know what? It's interesting. You know, Richard Jenkins is running the show, and everybody knows and loves Richard. He's kind of a Rhode Island source of immense pride, and there's some nuances to the performance this time around that might be unique and different, and actually have sparked some conversation, if not controversy. So we'll get into that momentarily. Thanks for joining me on my state of mind. Let's go to the rundown and check on some things that are happening. This is the exact phrase that came to me when I heard this news. Here's the headline: Karen Macbeth, who a few months ago decided that she was going to jump ship from the Democrat to Republican Party and run for Congress, decided yesterday that she's not running for Congress. She told Tara Granahan on WPRO, I guess, some of the reasons why.
There's a few reasons. Certainly, first of all, the change in my life with getting engaged and going into what will be a new marriage. And certainly I want to invest time in that, which is a wonderful new thing that has happened in my life. And so when you look at the schedule of Congress and being in Washington 3 or 4 days a week, certainly that came into play as one of the major decisions not to. Also, I don't regret changing parties to the Republican Party, and I think that still absolutely should be forefront going into this election season, that we needed a balance at the State House.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know about you. I'm furious over this. Furious. You didn't know you were getting married? You didn't know you were having special things happening in your life? Oh, isn't that just sweet? You just sucked the living oxygen out of the entire Republican effort to unseat the incumbent David Cicilline, as if you had a shot. You didn't. But you were viable enough, Karen, to actually put yourself in the hunt, having been the Oversight Committee chairperson, creating a whole big ruckus, moving from one party to the next. This kid, Russell Taub, who's got no shot. I got a better shot with my aching back to shoot 62 on the golf course tomorrow. And given that I can't lift my foot, that's how big a shot Russell Taub has. What possible? She should be ostracized. And the idea that she's not running for her current seat, oh, big deal.
No, I am not. That was never my consideration to ever run again, or run at this point for my House seat.
You know, the narcissism involved in politics today is running on a pretty rampant basis. This is an example of it. I float in, I float out. You know, people make considerations and decisions on whether they're not going to run based on what the field looks like. She could have been viable. She could have been viable. And she couldn't figure out, by the way, this is why I call Karen Macbeth, although she's a nice person, a B player at best when she ran the oversight stuff. I guess she gets, the bar is, you know, this high because she's the only one that asked for the oversight hearings on 38 Studios. So she gets some kind of heroine's welcome for that. Just outrageous, you know, in and out like that. No one's got time now to run in this particular election cycle. And whether you like David Cicilline or not, competition is important. Anyway, good riddance. Congratulations on your marriage. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. All right, entertainment expenses. This is just too much. This was in yesterday's paper. We didn't get a chance to get to it. If this doesn't frost your cookies, I don't know what does. If you read this story yesterday, you saw that Nick Mattiello, the Speaker of the House, you know, parked $1,800 of his campaign money to go to the NCAA tournament rounds 1 and 2 here at the Dunk back in March. And, you know, he didn't make all the games, but he gave the tickets out to his rep, buddies. You know, 6 tickets at $1,800 out of campaign money. Now, it's not taxpayer money, but it's campaign money. So little old ladies that go to spaghetti suppers and give them $25 so he can get reelected are actually paying for these guys to sit at the trough. And believe me, the beer expenses are just as high out of the campaign funds. Take a look at this graphic. Ready for this? Here's what the Journal listed out of the public finance campaign reports. It must be an ego and a half to run to spend $2,488 at Capriccio and $2,800 at the Capitol Grill. I don't know about you, but I can't even imagine how many people and what the bar tab and the menu tab look like. To be able to author, you know what kind of high that is? So when he on the Newsmaker show this past weekend was reacting to the Ray Gallison deal, you know, the House Finance Chairman that got tossed, and Ted Nesi asked him about, you know, what was in his heart and his head when he was confronted with this challenge of Ray Gallison. Listen to this phony baloney.
I actually said to myself, I don't know if I need this. I just don't need it, don't want to be part of it. I then said, well, if I throw in the towel, I'm just capitulating to bad behavior.
If you throw in the towel, you can't get $1,800 worth of tickets out of your campaign fund to treat the boys to the ball game. If you throw in the towel, you're not going to the Capitol Grill and spending $2,500. You know what? Maybe it's my week, but I'm not mincing any words here. You're a phony. You never had a thought about not being the speaker. The power and the high that comes along with it, and the misuse of money, it's legal to a point. It's actually investigatable, because the ticket thing is a stretch. And I hope somebody on a formal basis launches an investigation. That behavior's got to stop. The currency of buying off favors and authority with money that's not yours has got to stop, in addition to grants and everything else. All right, listen, on the agenda for the General Assembly, it doesn't look like the pot vote is going to make it. Here's the headline. Marijuana likely won't make the ballot. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have a chance. In Massachusetts, by the way, initiative petition is giving us a pot vote. In Vermont, they got it through the Senate, and it's stalled in the House of Representatives. And here in Rhode Island, it's sketchy at best. Yet Bishop Tobin suggests that it's a bad idea, and he's doubling down on it by writing about it, and he'll be with us here tomorrow night to talk about it. The sometimes activist bishop has things to say on that particular issue, and we'll be all ears tomorrow. On the national election, here's the headline. Yeah, a lot of you might be surprised that Trump and Clinton are kind of tied in the 3 key swing states. Here's the latest on the primary right now.
Voters in Kentucky and Oregon could help determine who will win the Democratic nomination. Bernie Sanders is poised to win one, possibly both states when all of the counting is done. But Hillary Clinton has a huge delegate lead and is already preparing to square off against the Republican opponent.
I am hoping and really looking forward to debating Donald Trump in the fall.
The money behind Clinton is moving ahead, too.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes.
Priorities USA, a super PAC supporting Clinton, released its first ads aimed at Trump. This one had people lip-syncing some of Trump's more controversial statements.
And you can tell them to go themselves.
Fox broadcast host Meghan Kelly is just one of the women Trump has had problems with. He sits down with her for an interview airing Tuesday night.
You seem to stay angry for months.
Yeah.
Was that real, or was that strategy?
I have great respect for you that you were able to call me and say, let's get together and let's talk.
Trump's bluntness is just one reason there is still a movement for some Republicans to find someone to run as a third-party candidate.
I hope the country gets a better choice than Clinton or Trump. If it doesn't happen, It doesn't happen.
So far, several prominent Republicans have said no to an independent bid, including Ohio Governor John Kasich.
I might peek in on that Meghan-Donald Trump interview myself. Such a beautiful thing that they've gotten together and have a better understanding with each other. I don't know if you've thought about this, but Donald Trump being tied in key swing states might be too much too soon. You know, he's a comeback candidate. He's an upset candidate more than comeback, because he hasn't lost anything yet. He's an upset candidate. You know, if he's hanging out there as a favorite, all of a sudden Hillary Clinton very well may be, when she eventually puts Bernie Sanders away, she may be the person that's behind and coming like some kind of a freight train. You know, timing's everything in politics. And I think Donald Trump has found himself with an easy convention now, something he didn't expect to have. Just my thought. Sometimes you want to wait to peak, because his female numbers are in the tank, and they are not going to get any better. Anyway, old Ben Franklin had a tough week. What's up with this? I hate when that happens. I guess that's the wind. Here's my question. Couldn't you have found a nicer bag? They wrapped them up in like multiple baggy bags, like big garbage bags. Isn't there an official Ben Franklin body bag that you could have, while you're fixing the statue and securing him? I bet you can get something from the set at Oklahoma or something. There's got to be some. Really? That's all they could do? Speaking of, here's the poster, and here's the headlines, which make the latest on Trinity Rep. This is good stuff. And Curt Columbus is back to talk about what's happening at Trinity Rep in Oklahoma. Was that a bad rendition? Oklahoma. You know what? After that, I can't remember what the lyrics are.
I don't think we're going to cast you. I know we're auditioning understudies, but I'm going to tell you right now.
Get out.
I know.
I don't need your aggravation. I got enough pain. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Always great to be here.
This is a big one. This is with Richard Jenkins,
yeah.
But he doesn't like to publicly. What's up with Richard? He doesn't like to get out there in the world. Bump into him at the golf course. I mean, he's I think he's left my particular golf course, but he's such an easygoing, natural, unassuming guy. But he doesn't like the media thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you were in the position that he's in, where people are always asking for the media attention, and I think he wants the work to speak for itself, which is one of the things I admire about him. He's not in the fame game. I mean, if you talk to people in Hollywood, friends of mine who are actors in Hollywood, he's vaunted among actors partially because he doesn't play the fame game. He lives here in Rhode Island. He's been married to the beautiful and talented Sharon Jenkins for 50 years. And
they're working together on this.
And they have worked together on this, and she's a genius. The choreography in this show is just breathtaking, and that's all Sharon. She's the choreographer. They came to me about 2 years ago and said, they had a little black and white photograph, and they said, we want to do this Oklahoma. And I was like, wow, okay, because Oklahoma was not on my list of things that we needed to do at Trinity Rep, but they have really put together a gutsy, gritty Oklahoma, and audiences are responding, I think, because of that.
All right, so when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about some of the nuances of this production, and I guess you got some interesting conversations coming out of it. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. So some of the scenes at Trinity Rep for Oklahoma, a little practice session there, I guess. The performance is actually open and running now through June 5th, which is a pretty lengthy run, right? It's just a little extraordinary for Trinity Rep?
It's a good run. It's probably a week more than we normally do, but yeah. And
demand has been high?
Demand is very high.
So people should hurry.
Yeah, they should. A bunch of shows have already sold out. We have more availability later in the run, the beginning of June. It closes June 5th, so there's not a lot of time. But audiences have been loving it, and it's Trinity, so we think about what whenever we do a classic, we think about what the issues are that speak to our time. And so there's a lot about the foundational American myth, and one of the characters that is traditionally played by a white actor is played by Joe Wilson Jr., who's been in our company for many years. He's African American, so audiences have been talking about the racial politics in Oklahoma. Strangely, Dan.
Elaborate. What do you mean?
Well, there's this character of Judd, and he's after Lori, who's the main woman, and Joe plays Judd. So you have an African-American man playing someone who is sometimes seen as a predator. He is put down by this whole community, and for people who know Oklahoma, ultimately that character is killed, and very quickly a trial happens and it's over. We haven't changed a word of the story, but that casting comes from the original play and the original story that this is based on, because in that story, Judd is meant to be, they talk about him being bullet-colored, which there's only one thing that means, and he's meant to be either Native American or African American, and so...
So is this purposeful, or was this just he's the best actor for the role?
It's a little bit of both. Joe, when we started talking about this, said, I have always wanted to play the part of Judd, and, you know, we go where our artists lead us. Richard and Sharon said we're up for that challenge. And for me, you know, we're engaged in this conversation around race in this country, and I think it's important that if we're doing this kind of work and that text is available to us, that it's there. So we've you know, made it a part of the production.
Is the feedback uncomfortable?
Some of it,
yeah.
some of it. But I mean, you know, again, here's the thing.
Theater's supposed to make you uncomfortable.
You can come to see this Oklahoma. You can watch the beautiful dancing. The dancing is amazing. The music is amazing. The voices are incredible. But I think you can also come and have an uncomfortable experience too. And I want both of those things to be available. You know, you've been to a great theater experience. Does both things. It satisfies, it nourishes, but it also discomforts on some level. So hopefully we're doing our job if we're doing both.
Has there been pushback? I'm just curious. Has there been pushback from the African American community, not knowing the history of the play itself, and suggesting that having this his actor, the name again,
Joe Wilson.
Joe Wilson, having Joe play Judd is
seen as racist?
Yeah, because of the demise and the short trial afterwards. And
I mean, again, yes, there has been pushback. We've also had lots of support. I think the thing that I'm hoping audiences will consider is how often events like this have taken place in our history and how we've looked away. You know, I mean, we certainly see examples of trials that rush to judgment in contemporary situations. Why wouldn't we put that in Oklahoma so that people can consider that as a part of the foundation of the American myth? And so we want both things to be there.
Well, given that it was his desire, I think it mitigates this thing getting out of control. Conversation and controversy and discomfort and all that are good, but when he says, I wanted to do this, that more or less ought to be the signature on the conversation.
One hopes. You know, and it's the bigger thing for us is we've been trying to have profound conversations about otherness. And that's foundational to theater. Well, you know, so
hold the thought. I mean, I think that's a concept that probably needs a couple of minutes. So when we come back, we'll talk about that. Okay. I'm not sure what otherness means. Do you? Stay with us. The scene from rehearsal for Oklahoma that runs through June 5th at Trinity Rep. Curt Columbus is the artistic director, and obviously a thinking guy. When you run these operations, I mean, you got to make the call on how things go. And by the way, where is the final call on the directorship of a play? You know, Richard Jenkins, I guess you probably don't push Richard around very much, right? Not that he carries himself with any kind of, you know, ridiculous gravitas. No. I'm sure his humility is one of his best traits, but he's probably very serious about what he's doing. So, do you get to check in? Does he check in with you?
The thing that I love about both Richard and Sharon, because it is their co-direction of this project, is how collaborative they are with all of the artists who are involved, how willing they are to take in my input. And, you know, I watch the show as it progresses.
So he's like a player's coach, like he's like an actor's director, right?
Absolutely.
Because he gets it, because he's done it.
And he's
award-winning.
He gets the actors up on their feet. He gets them to go deep and to go deeper. You know, there's stuff that and Sharon, I have brought Sharon in on projects that I'm directing where I don't need a choreographer, but I want her eye, because she, you know, takes the visual cues and really says, all right, what's that about? What's this about? It's extraordinary.
So what's this otherness about, the concept?
Well, okay, so we started the season with a production of Julius Caesar that had Annie Scaria as Julius Caesar. So we had Caesar cast as a woman. And part of what we were trying to do is to complicate a play that people felt like, oh yeah, Julius Caesar, blah, blah,
know
seen
that story.
Right. And particularly given the political season and the stuff that you're showing, what's going on in our world, it felt like it was important to have this woman leader and what was done to her. And we've continued that conversation. We had a play called The Heidi Chronicles after that. We had a play called The Hunchback of Seville, which was this incredible play about, what happens if you're not the typical person in the society? And how do you get dealt with? We had To Kill a Mockingbird and Blues for Mr. Charlie. And, and that conversation that we were having with our audience. We had this great new play that was called Arnie, Lewis, and Bob. That was about 3 old dudes who were kind of living together and, and dying together at home. And now we have Oklahoma. It's all part of a larger conversation. So we embrace the pushback that we get, I want to engage in a profound dialogue around theater. I would rather have people get passionate.
Does it broaden the audience when you've got otherness and other aspects of the creative environment there? Because if you're doing plays that everyone has seen before in the way that they've seen them done, there's kind of a fixed put for that, right?
Correct.
But if you're doing something different, shaking it up, and some people are a little PO'd about it, then maybe, hey,
I mean, look,
controversy sells in politics, and
right, the State House. So, look, we're the theater that Adrian Hall founded, and you, longtime observer, know that he was a guy who always shook it up. Dick Jenkins continued that when he was the artistic director. Oscar Eustis on Broadway now has Hamilton, a project that he pulled into existence, because he believes that we should be having a complicated conversation in the theater. We feel strongly that that's our responsibility. And at the same time, we have a responsibility to entertain, right? So I want people to come to Oklahoma and see the set that Eugene Lee has designed, this amazing set. And Eugene is, of course, Tony Award-winning, Olivier Award-winning, Emmy Award-winning designer for Saturday Night Live for 40 seasons, and he's made this incredible environment that the audience enters into.
And the intimacy of the facility itself.
That's exactly right.
Adds to everything, I'm sure.
Amazing singing, amazing music.
You sold me. I got to get on the.
Great.
I got to get on it before June 5th, and you got to get on it before June 5th. And overall, the business of art in the city is what?
Challenging, good. We have a mayor who's interested in the arts. That's great. The financial environment in terms of government support.
Not so great.
No. I mean, and you and I, we could have a half an hour conversation about that. You want me to come back and talk to you about where support has gone? Brother, I'm here.
Well, I think that's a conversation that is... it's important. Right now we're having a pretty good conversation about priorities for taxpayer money on X number of controversy levels. Might as well add that into the mix.
I'm here.
Congratulations on this one. This ought to be a dandy.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
It's my pleasure.
Hey, otherness. You've learned something tonight. Final word when we come back. Stay with us. That's pretty cool, the concept of otherness. Hey, the artistic world is supposed to be provocative. So if you think that Oklahoma is just something you've seen before, obviously it's something you haven't seen before. You've seen Bishop Tobin speak out on public policy issues before. He'll be here tomorrow night to talk about the marijuana legalization controversy. So we'll see you then. And on the radio at 3 o'clock on WPRO. Good night.